The stars had never seen anything like the Kethar fleet before. Thousands of ships moved through space like a dark cloud, swallowing entire star systems. These were not normal ships made of metal and glass. They were alive, breathing, pulsing, with strange energy that made them look like giant sea creatures swimming through the void. Fleet Commander Zeftok stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another world burn below. His 6 eyes glowed with satisfaction as the last city on the planet went dark. The purple flames from his biocannons had done their work well. Another species had fallen to the might of the Kethar Empire. How many is that now? He asked his second in command, a smaller alien with sharp teeth. 347 worlds, Commander, came the reply. 347 civilizations that thought they could stand against us. Zeftok made a sound that might have been laughter. In his long life, he had seen the same story play out over and over. A new species would detect their fleet coming. They would panic, send desperate messages to their neighbors, try to build defenses. Some would even fight back for a few hours. But in the end, they all fell the same way. The Kethar had perfected the art of conquest over 3 centuries. Their bioships could heal themselves, adapt to enemy weapons, and strike with the fury of a living storm. No technology they had encountered could match the power of their evolved war machines. Set course for the next system, Zeftok commanded. Our scouts report another cluster of inhabited worlds. We will take them all before the next cycle. Far across the galaxy, in a small corner of space that the Kethar had not yet reached, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the Un's Defiant. The ship was not impressive to look at. It was built for exploration, not war. Its hull was scarred from years of deep space travel, and its engines made strange noises that worried the engineering crew. But Jake Morrison loved his ship. He had spent 5 years exploring the outer rim, mapping new worlds, making contact with friendly alien species. The Defiant was his home, and his crew of 38 humans had become his family. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, called out Lieutenant Kelly Adams from the communications station. It's coming from the New Portland colony. Jake frowned. New Portland was one of the newest human settlements, built on a planet at the very edge of human space. It was a farming colony, peaceful and quiet. They rarely contacted anyone unless they needed supplies. Put it through, Jake ordered. The message that came through the speakers was broken and full of static. Jake could hear fear in the colonists' voice mixed with something else. Terror. Double quotes, ... under attack, ... ships like nothing we've seen, ... they're alive, ... plies. Anyone who can hear this ... killing everything ... the whole system is going dark, ... please help us. The transmission ended with a burst of static that made everyone on the bridge wince. That was recorded 6 hours ago, Kelly reported. The signal has been bouncing off relay stations, trying to reach anyone who could help. Jake felt his blood run cold. New Portland was 3 days away at maximum speed. If the colony was under attack 6 hours ago, they might already be too late. Tom, get me a course to New Portland. Best possible speed, Jake called to his navigator. Sir, the engines are already running at 90%. If we push them harder, we might lose them completely, warned Chief Engineer Tony Martinez over the intercom. Then we'll fix them when we get there, Jake replied. Kelly, send a priority message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them we have a possible hostile contact in the New Portland system. As the Defiant jumped to faster-than-light speed, Jake stared out at the stars and wondered what they would find when they arrived. He had fought in the Martian border wars, faced pirates and smugglers, survived more dangerous situations than he could count. But something about that message made him feel afraid in a way he had never felt before. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter was having a very bad day. Reports had been coming in from the outer colonies for the past week. Strange ships had been spotted on the edge of human space. Communication with several remote outposts had been lost. And now this message from the new Portland system. Lisa had been in charge of Earth Defense Command for 8 years. She had seen alien raids before, dealt with hostile species, even fought off a few invasion attempts. But this felt different. The pattern was too organized, too systematic. She called up a holographic map of human space and marked all the locations where they had lost contact with colonies. The pattern was clear. Something was moving through human territory in a straight line, taking out every settlement in its path. "Get me a connection to the Joint Chiefs," she ordered her aide, "and send a message to all fleet commanders. I want every available ship moved to defensive positions around our core worlds." As she watched the map, Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. If the reports were true, if something was really wiping out human colonies one by one, and humanity was facing its greatest threat since they had left Earth, the Kethar fleet moved on, unaware that they had just encountered something new. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they had found a species that would not simply roll over and die. They had found humanity, and everything was about to change. The Kethar fleet arrived at New Portland 3 days after they had destroyed the previous system. Fleet Commander Zeftok expected the same easy victory he had enjoyed for the past 3 centuries. His bioships spread out around the planet, like hungry predators, ready to feast on another helpless world. But something was different this time. "Commander, we are detecting unusual energy signatures on the planet's surface," reported his tactical officer. "The inhabitants appear to have built defensive structures." Zeftok's 6 eyes blinked in surprise. Most species they encountered either surrendered immediately or scattered in panic. Very few ever tried to fight back, and those that did usually lasted only a few hours. "Show me," he commanded. The main display showed the planet below. New Portland had been a peaceful farming world, covered in green fields and small towns. But now the humans had turned it into a fortress. Every city was surrounded by energy shields. Missile batteries dotted the landscape. The orbital space around the planet was filled with mines and automated defense platforms. "Interesting," Zeftok mused. "They actually think they can stop us." On the planet's surface, Governor Pete Williams stood in the command center of New Portland's capital city. He was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was steady as he spoke to his people. "I know you're all scared," he said into the microphone that connected him to every shelter and bunker on the planet. "I'm scared too, but we're not going to run. We're not going to hide. We're going to show these aliens what humans are made of." Pete had been a soldier before he became a governor. He had fought in 3 wars and knew what it meant to face impossible odds. When the warning about the alien fleet reached New Portland, he had 3 days to prepare. 3 days to turn a peaceful farming world into a battleground. He had done his best. The colonists had worked day and night to build defenses, to dig shelters, to prepare for the fight of their lives. Men, women, and children had all pitched in, knowing that their survival depended on a dot above the planet. Commander Alex Turner floated in the zero gravity of Defense Platform 7. The platform was one of 12 that orbited New Portland, each one armed with the most powerful weapons the colonists could build in 3 days. Alex was young, barely 25, but he had trained for this moment his entire life. He had joined the Colonial Defense Force right out of school, dreaming of protecting human worlds from alien threats. He had never imagined that threat would be this big. "All platforms, this is Platform 7, he spoke into his headset. "Enemy ships are moving into attack position. Remember, we only get 1 shot at this. Make it count." The Kethar bioships began their attack with the same tactics they had used on hundreds of worlds. Purple energy beams lanced down from space, targeting the human cities. But instead of destroying buildings, the beams struck the energy shields and scattered harmlessly. "Impossible," whispered Zeftok's tactical officer. "Their shields are actually holding." "Increase power," Zeftok ordered. "No primitive species can withstand our biocannons." But the humans had done something the Kethar had never encountered before. They had studied the energy patterns from previous attacks, analyzed the wreckage of destroyed worlds, and built their shields specifically to counter Kethar weapons. The shields held. Alex Turner saw his chance. "All platforms, fire now." 12. Defense platforms opened fire at once. Their weapons were crude compared to Kethar technology, but they were built with one purpose in mind: to hurt bioships. The concentrated fire struck the nearest alien vessel, and for the first time in 3 centuries, a Kethar bioship screamed in pain. The creature that was the ship writhed in space, its living hull torn and bleeding. It was not destroyed, but it was hurt, badly hurt. "Impossible," Zeftok breathed. "They actually wounded one of our ships." But the victory was short-lived. The Kethar fleet was enormous, and the humans had only 12 platforms. The aliens quickly adapted their tactics, sending smaller bioships to hunt down the platforms. One by one. Alex Turner watched his fellow defenders die. Platform after platform went silent as the alien creatures tore them apart. Soon, only his platform remained. "Platform 7 to Planetary Command," he spoke into his headset. "We've bought you as much time as we can. The aliens are adapting to our tactics. They're learning." "Understood, Platform 7, came Governor Williams' voice. "You've done good work up there." Alex smiled sadly. He had one more trick to try. The platform's reactor could be overloaded, turned into a massive bomb. It would destroy his platform, but it might take a few alien ships with it. "Tell my parents I did my duty," he said, and began the overload sequence. The explosion lit up the sky like a small sun. 3 Kethar bioships were caught in the blast, their living hulls burned and twisted. They did not die, but they were forced to retreat to heal their wounds. Down on the planet, the real battle was just beginning. The Kethar landed ground troops, expecting to find terrified farmers hiding in their homes. Instead, they found humans, who had turned every building into a fortress, every street into a trap. Governor Williams led the defense of the capital city. He had armed every colonist who could hold a weapon, from teenagers to grandparents. They fought from windows and rooftops, from sewers and basements. When the aliens destroyed one building, the humans would fall back to the next one and keep fighting. "They're not breaking," reported a Kethar ground commander to Fleet Commander Zeftok. "We destroy their defenses, and they build new ones. We kill their warriors, and more take their place. They keep fighting even when they have no hope of victory." Zeftok was beginning to understand that humanity was something new. Every other species the Kethar had conquered had a breaking point. Push them hard enough, kill enough of them, and they would surrender. But these humans seemed to get stronger the more pressure was applied to them. The battle for New Portland lasted 6 days. In the end, the Kethar won, but it was not the easy victory they were used to. They had lost ships, suffered casualties, and been forced to use tactics they had never needed before. As the last human defenders fell, Fleet Commander Zeftok stood among the ruins of the capital city. The humans had fought to the very end, never surrendering, never giving up. "This species is dangerous," he told his officers. "They fight like no one we have ever encountered. We must be more careful with the next world." But the Kethar had learned something important about humanity. They had learned that humans would fight, even against impossible odds. They had learned that humans would adapt, even in the face of certain death. What they had not learned was that humans would also remember. Every human who had died on New Portland had sent a message to the rest of humanity. A message about alien bioships, about their weapons and tactics, about how they could be hurt. The Kethar thought they had won a victory, but they had actually awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine. They had awakened humanity's will to fight. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the engineering section of the UN's Defiant, watching his crew work frantically to install new equipment. The ship had been completely changed in the past week. What had once been a peaceful exploration vessel was now humanity's most advanced warship. "Are you sure this will work?" Jake asked Dr. Amy Sullivan, the ship's chief science officer. Amy looked up from the alien device she was studying. Her hands were covered in strange blue fluid that had leaked from the bioship fragment they had recovered from New Portland. "I'm sure of the science, Captain. Whether we can build something fast enough to use it is another question." The fragment had been found floating in space near New Portland, a piece of alien bioship that had been torn off during the battle. Amy had been studying it for days, trying to understand how the Kethar technology worked. "The bioships are alive," she explained to Jake for the 10th time. "They have nervous systems, like giant space whales. If we can disrupt those nervous systems, we can paralyze them." Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks, the ship's tactical officer, was working on the weapon systems. "The electromagnetic pulse generators are ready, Captain. We've taken apart half the ship's systems to build them, but they should work." Jake nodded. The plan was simple but dangerous. The Defiant would approach the Kethar fleet alone, pretending to be a helpless exploration ship. When the aliens got close enough, they would fire the electromagnetic pulse weapons and hope it would disable the bioship's nervous systems. "How many ships are we talking about?" Jake asked. "Our long-range sensors detected over 2,000. "Vessels," replied Lieutenant Kelly Adams from the communications station. "They're moving toward the Centauri system next." 2,000 ships. Jake felt his stomach twist. The Centauri system had over 50 million human colonists. If the Kethar fleet reached them, it would be a massacre. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from Earth Defense Command," Kelly reported. Admiral Lisa Carter's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired, like she had not slept in days. "Jake, please tell me you have good news." "We have a plan." "Admiral, it's risky, but it might work." "What do you need?" "Time, and maybe a miracle." Lisa Carter had been coordinating humanity's defense from Earth, but she felt helpless. The human fleet was scattered across hundreds of worlds, and most ships were not designed for war. The Kethar had destroyed 12 more human colonies since New Portland, and they were moving faster now. "The Droid chiefs want to evacuate the core worlds," Lisa told Jake. "They think we should abandon the outer colonies and make a stand at Earth." "That's not who we are," Jake replied. "Humans don't abandon their own." "I know. That's why I'm giving you everything I can. The quantum drive prototype is being installed on your ship right now. It should let you move faster than anything the aliens have." The quantum drive was experimental technology that had never been tested in combat. It could push a ship to incredible speeds, but it was also dangerous. One mistake could tear the ship apart. "There's something else," Lisa continued. "We've been monitoring alien communications. They're confused by what happened at New Portland. They've never faced resistance like that before." Jake smiled grimly. "Good. Maybe we can use that confusion against them." Chief Engineer Tony Martinez was not happy about the modifications to his ship. A quantum drive had been installed in the cargo bay, connected to the ship's power systems with cables that looked like they might explode at any moment. "Captain, this is crazy," he told Jake. "We're pushing the engines past their safety limits, running weapons that draw more power than we have. And now you want to add an experimental drive that might kill us all. Can you make it work, Tony?" Tony sighed. "I'll make it work. But I can't promise we'll survive it." The Defiant left Earth's orbit at maximum speed, heading for the edge of human space where the Kethar fleet was approaching the Centauri system. Jake's crew knew they were probably flying to their deaths, but none of them complained. "Contact in 6 hours," reported Navigator Tom Wilson. "The alien fleet is huge, Captain. I've never seen anything like it." Jake stared at the tactical display. The Kethar fleet looked like a swarm of insects moving through space. Each ship was different, evolved for a specific purpose. Some were huge, designed to carry invasion forces. Others were small and fast, built for scouting. And at the center of the fleet were the massive bioships that could destroy planets. "Dr. Sullivan, are you ready?" Jake asked. Amy nodded nervously. "The electromagnetic pulse weapons are charged and ready. If my calculations are correct, we should be able to disable their nervous systems for about 10 minutes. And if your calculations are wrong, then we'll probably die very quickly." The Kethar fleet detected the approaching human ship when it was still 2 hours away. Fleet Commander Zeftok studied the readings with interest. "A single ship," he mused. "They send one ship against our entire fleet." "It appears to be an exploration vessel," reported his tactical officer. "Minimal weapons, light armor. It poses no threat." But Zeftok was not so sure. The humans had surprised him at New Portland. They had shown tactical intelligence he had not expected. Sending a single ship against his fleet seemed like suicide, but maybe it was something else. "Send a hunting pack to capture it," he ordered. "I want to study this ship, learn more about human technology." 6 bioships broke off from the main fleet and moved to intercept the Defiant. They were smaller than the main war vessels, but still much larger than the human ship. Their living hulls pulsed with energy as they prepared to disable the intruder. "Here they come," reported Ryan Brooks. 6 ships moving fast. Jake felt his heart pounding. Everything depended on the next few minutes. "Wait until they're close. We need to be sure the pulse will hit all of them." The bioships surrounded the Defiant, their weapons charging. Jake could see them on the view screen, looking like giant sea creatures with glowing eyes. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Now!" Jake shouted. Amy Sullivan pressed the firing button. The electromagnetic pulse erupted from the Defiant's modified weapons, washing over the alien ships like an invisible wave. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the bioships began to convulse. Their living hulls spasmed as their nervous systems were disrupted. The glowing eyes went dark. The weapons stopped charging. "It worked," Amy whispered in amazement. "They're paralyzed, but the victory was temporary." The 6 bioships were helpless, but the main fleet was still out there. And they had just seen one of their hunting packs disabled by a single human ship. "All ships, attack the human vessel," ordered Fleet Commander Zeftok. "Destroy it immediately." The entire Kethar fleet turned toward the Defiant. 2,000 bioships, each one capable of destroying a city, began to move toward the lone human ship. "Time to go," Jake announced. "Tony, fire up the quantum drive." The experimental drive engaged with a sound like thunder. The Defiant leaped forward at impossible speed, leaving the Kethar fleet behind in seconds. But the chase was just beginning. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Kethar had encountered an enemy that could hurt them. And that enemy was running loose in their fleet. Fleet Commander Zeftok had never felt anger like this before. For 3 centuries, the Kethar had been the hunters. Now somehow they had become the hunted. "Report," he demanded from his tactical officer. "The human ship has destroyed 17 of our vessels and disabled 43 more," came the nervous reply. "They strike without warning, disable our ships with their electromagnetic weapons, then disappear before we can respond," Zeftak's 6 eyes burned with rage. The single human ship had been harassing his fleet for 5 days, appearing at random locations to attack isolated bioships. They would strike fast, disable several vessels, then vanish using their strange faster-than-light drive. How is this possible? He roared. They are 1 ship against 2,000. But Captain Jake Morrison was not thinking about the odds. He was thinking about the 43 million humans in the Centauri system, counting on him to stop the alien fleet. Every bioship he disabled was 1 less weapon pointed at innocent people. Next target, he announced to his crew. 3 bioships on the outer edge of their formation. They looked like scouts. The Defiant materialized from quantum space just long enough to fire its electromagnetic pulse weapons. The 3 alien scouts convulsed and went dark. They're nervous. Systems disrupted. Before the rest of the fleet could respond, the human ship was gone again. Beautiful work, commented Dr. Amy Sullivan. The pulse weapons are working better than I hoped. But the strain was showing on everyone. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez had been working around the clock to keep the quantum drive operational. The experimental technology was pushing the ship's systems to their limits. Captain, we can't keep this up much longer, Tony reported. The quantum drive is overheating. If we don't give it time to cool down, it's going to explode. Jake knew they were running out of time. The Kethar were adapting to his tactics, keeping their ships closer together, making it harder to strike isolated targets. Soon, they would figure out how to counter his electromagnetic weapons. 1 more strike, Jake decided. Then we fall back and regroup. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks was studying the tactical display, looking for the perfect target. There, Captain. That big ship in the center of their formation. It looks like a command vessel. Jake smiled grimly. Fleet Commander Zeftak. Flagship was the largest bioship in the fleet, a massive creature that served as the brain of the entire invasion force. If they could disable it, the whole fleet might be thrown into confusion. That's a dangerous target, warned Navigator Tom. Wilson. It's surrounded by hundreds of other ships. That's what makes it perfect, Jake replied. They won't expect us to attack their most heavily defended ship. The Defiant dropped out of quantum space directly above the Kethar flagship. For a moment, Jake had a clear view of the massive bioship. It was beautiful in its own alien way, like a giant jellyfish floating through space. Fire! Jake commanded. The electromagnetic pulse struck the flagship's nervous system with devastating effect. The massive bioship writhed in agony. It's living. Hull spasming as electrical impulses ran wild through its brain. The ship's weapons went silent. Its shields collapsed, and its propulsion systems shut down. Fleet Commander Zeftak felt his ship die beneath him. The flagship's bio-neural network, which had been alive for over 1,000 years, suddenly went quiet. Emergency lighting flickered on as backup systems tried to compensate. Damage report? He screamed. All primary systems are down, reported his tactical officer. The ship is paralyzed. We are defenseless. For the first time in his life, Zeftak felt fear. The humans had done something impossible. They had killed a ship that had survived the destruction of entire star systems, but the Defiant was not finished. As the flagship drifted helplessly, Jake ordered his crew to target the command ship's escorts. 1 by 1, the bioships around. The flagship went dark, their nervous systems disrupted by the electromagnetic pulse. Impossible, whispered Zeftak. 1 ship cannot do this much damage. But Jake Morrison was not thinking about impossibility. He was thinking about New Portland, about the brave colonists who had fought to the death against overwhelming odds. He was thinking about the children in the Centauri system, sleeping peacefully while alien ships approached their worlds. Target. The next group, he ordered. We're not done yet. The Defiant struck again and again, each attack leaving more bioships drifting helplessly in space. The great Kethar fleet, which had conquered hundreds of worlds, was being torn apart by a single human vessel. But the quantum drive was reaching its limits. Sparks flew from control panels as the experimental technology strained to keep working. The ship's hull was beginning to buckle under the stress of repeated quantum jumps. "Captain, we have to stop," Tony Martinez called from the engine room. "The quantum drive is going to fail. If we push it any harder, it will tear the ship apart." Jake looked at the tactical display. They had disabled over 100 bioships, but there were still thousands more. The Kethar fleet was wounded, but not defeated. "Set course for the Centauri system," he ordered. "We need to warn them what's coming." But as the Defiant prepared to jump to quantum space, something unexpected happened. The space around them began to fill with new contacts. Human ships, dozens of them, were arriving from all directions. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the UN's Ranger," reported. Lieutenant Kelly Adams' Captain Sam Phillips' face appeared on the screen. He was a veteran officer, gray-haired and tough, with the kind of smile that made enemies nervous. "Jake, you magnificent crazy man," Phillips said. "We've been tracking your fight across 3 star systems. Time to even the odds." More ships kept arriving. The UN's Vanguard under Captain Maria Santos, the UN's Guardian under Captain Ben Clark, the UN's Warrior under Captain Steve Johnson. Every ship in the human fleet was converging on the Kethar position. "How did you find us?" Jake asked. "Admiral Carter figured out your pattern," Phillips replied. "She also figured out how to mass-produce your electromagnetic pulse weapons. Every ship in the fleet is now equipped with them." Jake felt a surge of hope. The tide was turning. Humanity was no longer running from the Kethar. They were fighting back. Fleet Commander Ziftak watched in horror as more human ships appeared. On his sensors, first 1, then 10, then 50. Each ship was small compared to his biovessels, but they all carried the same electromagnetic weapons that had paralyzed his fleet. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded. "Over 300 and counting," his tactical officer replied. "They're surrounding us." The great Kethar fleet, which had seemed so mighty just hours before, was now trapped. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that had learned how to hurt them. "All human ships. This is Captain Morrison," Jake announced over the fleet communication channel. "Target the largest bioships first. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human colony, every family, every child who's counting on us." The battle that followed would be remembered as the turning point in the war. The human fleet attacked in coordinated waves, their electromagnetic weapons disrupting the bioships' nervous systems. The aliens tried to fight back, but their living vessels were helpless against the pulse weapons. One by one, the great bioships went dark. The Kethar fleet that had conquered hundreds of worlds was being destroyed by the species they had dismissed as primitive. Fleet Commander Ziftok realized that everything had changed. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were winning. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center on Earth, watching the tactical display with amazement. The red dots representing the Kethar fleet were disappearing one by one, replaced by blue dots showing disabled bioships. The human fleet was winning. "Reports coming in from all sectors," announced her aide. "The Kethar fleet is retreating. They're abandoning their attack on the Centauri system." Lisa felt a moment of relief, but she knew the war was far from over. The aliens still had thousands of ships, and they had conquered hundreds of worlds. This was just the beginning. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," she ordered. "We're not stopping here. Every world the Kethar conquered is going to be freed." In space, Fleet Commander Zeftok was learning what defeat felt like. His flagship was still paralyzed, drifting helplessly as human ships surrounded it. More than half his fleet was disabled, and the rest were scattered across 3 star systems. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the humans," reported his communications officer. Captain Jake Morrison's face appeared on the screen. The human looked tired but determined, like a warrior who had fought a long battle and was ready to fight another. "Commander Zeftok, I presume," Jake said. "I'm Captain Morrison of the United Nations Starship Defiant. I have a message for you." "What do you want, human?" Zeftok replied, his voice full of anger and confusion. "I want you to understand something," Jake continued. "You made a mistake when you attacked our worlds. You thought we were weak, that we would run or surrender like all the other species you've conquered. But you were wrong." Zeftok said nothing, but his 6 eyes burned with rage. "Here's what's going to happen," Jake continued. "You're going to withdraw from all human space. You're going to release all the worlds you've conquered. And you're going to leave this part of the galaxy and never come back." "And if we refuse?" Zeftok asked. Jake's expression did not change. "Then we'll destroy every bioship in your fleet. Every single one. And then we'll hunt down the rest of your empire and finish the job." The transmission ended, leaving Zeftok staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Kethar had encountered a species that was not afraid of them. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked his tactical officer. Zeftok looked at the tactical display. His fleet was broken, scattered, demoralized. The humans had weapons that could paralyze bioships, technology that let them move faster than anything the Kethar had ever seen. And most importantly, they had the will to fight. "Signal all ships," he said quietly. "We withdraw." The news of the Kethar retreat spread across human space like wildfire. On every world, in every city, people celebrated. The great alien fleet that had seemed unstoppable had been defeated by humanity's determination and ingenuity. But Captain Jake Morrison was not celebrating. He was planning the next phase of the war. "Dr. Sullivan, how long will it take to retrofit the rest of the fleet with quantum drives?" he asked. Amy looked up from her calculations. 3 months, maybe 4. The technology is complex, but now that we know it works, we can mass produce it. And the electromagnetic pulse weapons? Those are easier. Every ship in the fleet can be equipped within a few weeks. Jake nodded. The Kethar had conquered hundreds of worlds, enslaved millions of beings. Just driving them away from human space was not enough. They had to be stopped completely. "Captain Sam Phillips to Jake Morrison," came a voice over the communication system. Jake activated the channel. "Go ahead, Sam. We're getting reports from some of the worlds the Kethar conquered. There are survivors, Jake. Billions of them. They're asking for help." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. All this time, he had assumed the Kethar were killing everyone on the worlds they conquered. But apparently, they were keeping some beings alive, probably as slaves. "What species are we talking about?" Jake asked. "Dozens of them. The Altarians, the Vegan Union, the Centauri Federation. All species that were supposedly extinct. They're all sending distress signals, asking for rescue." Jake looked at the tactical display, now showing the vast expanse of space that Kethar had conquered. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were waiting for salvation. "Signal all ships," Jake announced. "We're going after them." The liberation of the conquered worlds began 3 weeks later. The human fleet, now equipped with quantum drives and electromagnetic pulse weapons, swept through Kethar space like an avenging storm. World after world was freed, as bioships fell silent before humanity's new weapons. Captain Maria Santos of the UNS Vanguard was the first to reach the Altarian homeworld. What she found there made her weep. The beautiful blue planet had been turned into a massive slave camp with millions of Altarians forced to work in alien biofactories. "This is Santa's to all ships," she broadcast. "The Altarians are alive, but they need immediate medical attention. These aliens have been working them to death." Jake Morrison arrived at the Altarian system 12 hours later. The Kethar had abandoned the world when they detected the approaching human fleet, leaving behind their biofactories and slave camps. "Dr. Sullivan, what can you tell me about these factories?" Jake asked as they orbited the planet. Amy had been studying the alien structures with her sensors. "They're growing bioships, Captain. The Kethar have been using slave labor to build their fleet. That's how they got so many ships." Jake felt his anger grow. The Kethar had not just conquered worlds, they had turned entire civilizations into factories to build more weapons of conquest. "Begin rescue operations," he ordered, "and destroy those factories. All of them." The pattern repeated itself on world after world. The human fleet would arrive, the Kethar would flee, and millions of enslaved beings would be freed. Each liberation brought new allies to humanity's cause. The Vegan Union had been master engineers before their conquest. They immediately began helping the humans improve their quantum drive technology. The Centauri Federation were master tacticians who helped plan the liberation campaigns. Other species contributed their own special skills to the growing alliance. Fleet Commander Zeph Tak watched his empire crumble from his command ship at the edge of the galaxy. World after world was falling to the human alliance. His bioships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. "Sir, we're receiving communications from the inner worlds," reported his aide. "The Council of Elders wants to know why." "We are retreating." Zeph Tak almost laughed. The Council of Elders had never faced humans in battle. They did not understand what these creatures were capable of. "Tell the Council that we have encountered something new," he replied. "A species that fights back. A species that will not surrender. A species that turns our own weapons against us." "What are your orders, sir?" Zeph Tak looked at the tactical display. The humans were getting closer every day, liberating world after world, building their alliance stronger with each victory. "Signal all remaining ships," he said finally. "We retreat to the home worlds. It is time for the Council to see what we are facing." But Jake Morrison was not content to simply chase the Kethar away. He had learned something important during the liberation campaigns. The Kethar were not the only threat in the galaxy. His sensors had detected other hostile species, other empire builders who might threaten the newly freed worlds. "Admiral Carter, this is Jake Morrison," he transmitted to Earth. "We need to talk." Lisa Carter's face appeared on the screen. She looked different now, more confident. The successful defense of human space had made her a hero, but Jake could see the weight of responsibility in her eyes. "What's on your mind, Jake?" "We can't stop here," Jake said. "The Kethar were just one threat among many. If we want to protect the worlds we've liberated, we need to keep fighting." "Fighting who?" Jake called up a map of the galaxy, showing the territories they had discovered during their liberation campaigns. "There are at least 6 other hostile empires out there. The Kethar were actually one of the smaller ones." Lisa stared at the map in shock. "How is that possible?" "The galaxy is bigger than we thought," Jake replied. "And it's more dangerous. But we've proven something important. We've proven that these empire builders can be stopped. Species that have been slaves for centuries are looking to us for leadership." "You're talking about building our own empire." "I'm talking about building something different," Jake corrected. "Not an empire, but an alliance. A federation of free worlds that can stand against the next threat." 6 months later, the Galactic Liberation Alliance was formed. Humanity provided the military leadership and advanced technology. The Altarians contributed their industrial expertise. The vegans designed new starship classes. The Centaurians developed tactical doctrines. Dozens of other species added their own unique skills. Fleet Commander Zeftak stood before the Council of Elders on the Kethar homeworld, trying to explain how 3 centuries of conquest had been undone in 6 months. You underestimated them, accused Elder Vorth, her ancient, voice full of contempt. I underestimated their unity, Zeftak replied. Every species we conquered became their ally. Every world we enslaved became a base for their operations. They turned our own empire against us. What do you recommend? Zeftak thought about the human captain who had defeated him. Jake Morrison had offered him a choice: retreat or be destroyed. Their H